time for DTM. We're here in Zolder in Belgium, and welcome. We're excited to be here. Finally, after 17 years, we're back racing here. And yesterday's race winner was Philipp Eng, and he did a fantastic job. So let's see what today brings. Fact is, it's completely different weather because yesterday it was really sunny and dry. Today, let's see. Weather here is very unpredictable. At the moment, I think we've got a 40% rain chance, so let's find out how qualifying goes. Here's your commentator.
Thank you, Verena. What a lovely top there, reminding me of the 1966 hit from Manfred Mann, Pretty Flamingo. Aberdeen then. Pretty Flamingo? No, maybe not. Jonathan Aberdeen, one of the WRT racers. There's René Rasten, who had a torrid time of it yesterday, not finishing the race. He'll be hoping to right the wrongs of yesterday going into qualifying today. A good morning to you. Welcome to Zolder. Here we go then with 2.941 miles of tarmac awaiting these drivers who are about to set the times for the grid that will be formed for the race this afternoon. Bruno Spengler at one point yesterday would have said he's shoo-in to win the race. That wasn't going to be the case. He ended up finishing just in the points in P10. And this is 15th DTM season, of course, champion when BMW made their return to the DTM. Seems like a few years ago now. Of course, it is a few years ago now, but Bruno Spengler then leaves the garage, run by the RMG team, of course, the team chief, Stefan Reinhold, formed the team back in 2011. And then the car alongside, you could just see in the garage, was that of Marco Wittmann. The race yesterday, P7. But this man took his maiden DTM victory yesterday, Philipp Eng. And Philipp Eng then got that monkey off his back, as it were, and took the win. Has threatened to do that on a number of occasions before, and has taken a number of pole positions, but yesterday he'll be the first to admit fortune favoured him, that's for sure, and he was able to take full advantage of it and to take the win. Good crowd here to enjoy the DTM race action to come, both from qualifying and indeed the race as we return here to Zolder back in 1984, the 11th of March to be exact. This track contested the very first race in the DTM history here at the Belgian circuit, and the winner was Harald Groos in a BMW 635 CSI, and Harald himself is here competing in the classic historic series this weekend. I met him this morning and we shook hands and exchanged some words. Sadly, Harold's command of English is about as good as my command of German. Therefore, it wasn't a terribly entertaining conversation, but nice to meet Harald, and still very much enjoying his racing, and that's really, really good to see. Robin Freins, many bets on Robin Freins for this race today. Local driver, of course, Robin Freins, driving for the AB Sportsline team for Audi. Took two podiums at the opening round at Hockenheim, P3 in both of the races, a lowly P12, as strategically it was a very difficult race to call yesterday. Alongside me, one Right Reverend Brian Oliver, as we look at Marco Wittmann, two-time champion back in 2014 and 2016. It was an extraordinary race, so many factors, tyre degradation, weather to a degree. It was a job to know who was going to go where yesterday, and I think today is going to be much the same, because I believe an awful lot of drivers probably used more of the Hankook slicks yesterday than they would have liked, because they were banking on it being perhaps wet today.
Yeah, good morning, Dave. The one thing, just as we hear from, I thought we were going to have some radio contact from Marco Wittmann. The one thing that we discovered yesterday, that the thing you can predict about DTM is that it is always going to be unpredictable. The first two rows of the grid for yesterday's race finished pretty well nowhere. The winner coming from P7 on the grid, and we said at the beginning of the day there was going to be no overtaking, that it was going to be difficult. How wrong were we? It turned out to be a very exciting race with most of the point scorers coming from further down the grid, and as you said, strategy was everything yesterday.
And I think it will probably be the same today. Here is Paul de Resta then, who finished in the points yesterday, P8 in fact, our Motorsport Aston Martin. Two cars in the points, and one of those was this man, Ferdinand Habsburg, former Signal Seater star in Formula 3, making his debut this year with the R Motorsport Aston Martin team in DTM, and a very welcome addition to the grid he is as well. So Ferdinand then banking points yesterday.
Right, just pressed it again the way it went, but it must have a connection, something weird.
Okay, understood.
So Paul di Resta feeding back some critical information to the teams then from team radio as we get the green light. And this short, sharp qualifying session gets underway here at Zolder. 10 turns, 4 of them left, 6 of them are right-handers. However, turn 7 is a right-hander, left-hander, right, really. So 3, if not 4, apeces, I think is the correct word, as opposed to apexes. There is Marco Wittmann then, ready to come out of the box and get his qualifying session underway. Audi RS5 then is the car that's driven by Jonathan Aberdeen. Jonathan Aberdeen, another one of the former single-seater stars in Formula 3, drives car number 27 for the WRT team. Team headed up, of course, by Vincent Voss. Very enigmatic character in the paddock is Vincent, and delighted that the WRT team are part of the DTM contingent for 2019. Yesterday's race winner, Mr. Philipp Eng. Peng, as many call him, and he doesn't object to that. Philipp Eng then victorious yesterday. What will he be able to do in qualifying today? You wouldn't bet against it because Philipp was brutally quick in the free practice sessions. That didn't really convert into his quali pace yesterday, but mattered not. So there, Jonathan makes a little bit of a Horlicks of coming out of the garage and not quite enough steering lock to be able to make his way into the fast lane of the pit lane. He gets it all pointing in the right direction now, and Jonathan Aberdeen is on his way down the pit lane. One young fan, and there are thousands of them that have made their way to Zolder as the weather conditions have been kind to the DTM. So then this was Jonathan Aberdeen with the steering lock quite not enough for him to get out of the garage. On board now with René Rast. Now, if you're looking at this for the first time, the inside shot, you're thinking that's a low place to have that rear view mirror. It's not a mirror, it's a screen, projecting the image from cameras at the rear of the car, because there is a brand new safety firewall behind the drivers, which means that any rear view mirror would just show you a firewall and nothing else. So it's interesting how they've shaped the screens to look exactly like a rear view mirror. On board with Mike Rockenfeller, his splitter cam then. You can see the speed, you can see what gear he is in, and the fact that through Sector 1, even though he's weaving from side to side, he's gone quicker than anyone. That will soon come to an abrupt halt, as he has René Rast and a huge queue of cars ahead of him. One of those being one of the WRT Audi RS5 DTMs, as you can see, as we almost run into the back of it. That's how close we get in DTM, and this is only qualifying. Downhill we go now. Staying on board with Mike Rockenfeller, who does a PB then through Sector 2. Now makes his way from turn 8 and turn 9. Heading up towards chicane now, and that's also the pit in. And there you would go straight on and you would make your way into the pit lane. So the right-hander now is the very last turn before breaking the timing beam, as we stay on Mike Rockenfeller as he goes from 4th to 5th now, and closes out at a 1:29.276. Don't read too much into that time, they will come tumbling down. Left-hand side of your screen indicates that Jamie Green has gone quickest from Great Britain. You can see the flags of their nationality as well, as there we can see Ernst Moser, the team principal of Audi Sport Team Phoenix, looking on to see who's doing what and where in this quali session. So we stay on board with Mike Rockenfeller now, because this will be a potentially faster lap. As you can see, both Jamie Green and René Rast have already gone quicker in the first sector. How do I know that? Well, the colour indicators on the left-hand side of your screen on the graphics. If it's pink, that means it's quicker than anyone. If it's green, it's a personal best in each of the 3 sectors. Line up 3 pinks in a row, jackpot. You've gone fastest. I think I've read that accurately, have I not, Mr. Oliver?
Beautifully explained, Dave. Couldn't have put it better myself. As you alluded to earlier, the weather has not turned out as many had predicted today, because this time yesterday we were saying there were going to be thunderstorms, and that's what the weather forecast was saying. Now it looks likely that it's going to be staying dry today, and a lot of teams base their strategy on the weather forecast. They rolled the dice looking at the weather forecast, so that could really mix things up today when we come to race time particularly.
How can it mix it up? It was so mixed up yesterday in terms of strategy, but yes, you're absolutely right. There were a number of drivers that probably used more of the anchored slick sets that are made available to them for the entire weekend than perhaps they would have chosen to do. Robin Frines then Many is putting down as the favourite to take almost a home victory here at Zolder this weekend. He's gone second fastest, as you can see, with a 1:21.733. He's just been bested by Rennie Rast, who's done a 1:21.690. And Rennie Rast, who we're on board with now, is going even quicker as he closes out Sector 1 with a better than anyone time. He brakes now, turns into the chicane right, then left, and then back on the power again almost briefly before turning right. And we go into the garage rather than staying on board with Rennie Rast. Sheldon van der Linde from BMW and from South Africa has just delivered a 1:21.590. Put that into English, Dave. A 1:21.590. That's what Sheldon van der Linde has done. That's an extraordinary lap fairly early on in the session, besting both Rennie Rast and Robin Freins and Timo Glock. And we now have a yellow flag in turn number 4. Rennie Rast then across the timing line is some 6/1000ths down on Sheldon van der Linde. The yellow turns to green in turn 4, so everyone is unhindered by that waved yellow flag now. And this was the reason why Sheldon van der Linde carrying so much speed. The back end of the car snapped out. He did well to control it, to be fair. And as you can see, he will have, through no fault of his own, other than he was carrying too much speed, will have carried a fair JCB bucket full of gravel onto the track at that point as well. So anyone that's following him need to be on their mettle a bit.
He did well to get away with that, didn't he? And we spoke yesterday about the high curbs here and the risk to tyre damage when you bump over those curbs. And he kept it out of the gravel trap. But isn't Sheldon impressing in his first year in DTM?
Extraordinary.
Really, really good.
I mean, I don't know what it is. And I was with Bernadine van der Linde, Sheldon's mum, a few weeks ago. And I almost should have said, what is it that you fed these boys on? Because both Sheldon and Kelvin are extremely talented racing drivers. And yeah, Sheldon has certainly impressed in his rookie year. Also impressing in his rookie year and taking a win in his rookie year was this man, Joel Eriksson, who crosses the timing line now and goes 10th fastest. Lost some time in that final sector, as you can see. So Joel Eriksson, who took his maiden DTM victory at the Misano circuit in Italy on the Adriatic coast last year. And Sheldon van der Linde, then his car is reversed into the garage and stand by the vacuum cleaner awaits to extract some of the gravel that will definitely be on the undercar now, I would suggest. He is still the fastest driver, though, with a 1:21.590. So Sheldon yesterday finished P11. He took a P6 in his first ever DTM race, which is an extraordinary achievement in reality. There you can see the tyres being removed, the wheels being removed, and here comes Jamie Green then, who's currently 9th fastest. This is Rennie Rast, who's 2nd fastest, and with the exception of 5 drivers, nearly everyone is in the pit lane now. So Sheldon van der Linde then breaks the timing beam for that 1:21.590 time. So there you can see on the graphics for Shell BMW M4 DTM car, Sheldon van der Linde, and this is where he ran wide, carrying just a little bit too much speed. And that is the gravel that was deposited across the exit of that particular turn. And you see the really rather elaborate cooling device that they put onto the front of the cars when they're in the garage, just to extract all the heat from the cars, because of course they run hot. Brand new era of DTM in 2019 as we go from the traditional V8 to now the most powerful cars ever with 2 litres.
It's an amazing bit of kit, that cooling device, isn't it? And I
is.
imagine there's a lot of gravel in there as well, so they're going to need to extract that. So that's a phenomenal way of cooling the car down, isn't it?
So youngest driver in the DTM is Sheldon. First met him when he was running in a one-make series, and then moved into GT racing along with his brother, in fairness. And now, of course, got the call from BMW. Took part in the young driver test and suitably impressed Jens Marquardt and many others across the BMW motorsport contingent, and indeed has earned himself a DTM drive. And he's certainly paid that back with what he's achieved in his first 3 races. What can he achieve in his 4th? Well, at the moment, it's all looking terribly good, isn't it? With a 1:21.5, he is the fastest driver. 6/1000ths quicker than Rennie Rast. And when you consider the top 5 drivers are all covered by a time of no more than 3/10. It's extraordinarily close, as it always is in DTM.
And we are exactly at the spot that we were this time yesterday, where no cars out on track. In fact, just as we see Rennie Rast now coming back out. But we had this yesterday, this lull, and then suddenly we had all 18 cars on track at the same time. And our thought was that the track would get quicker and that drivers would come out and put in their best times of the session within the last 9 or 10 minutes. But actually it turned out that most drivers didn't better their time. But we've got this situation at the moment where the track is very, very quiet, but in a moment it's going to get very, very busy.
It is a short, sharp qualifying session, and you're absolutely right. There is
40 seconds until the rear tires go on.
There you go. It's timed to the last second, as
really
Danny Juncadella is being advised of when he's going to be released from the garage. Danny Juncadella, regrettably, not finishing the race yesterday.
Radio check. Can you hear me? Okay.
Okay, radio check again, Jamie.
So radio checks for Jamie Green. Danny Juncadella, incidentally, a DTM race winner last year. And there you can see the Mike Rockefeller car.
Or what?
No, we are prepared and we will go the first of the group, okay, not to be catch into traffic, so we have maybe 1 minute more to wait outside.
So you can hear there as the team radio unfolds what the strategy is in terms of where they're placing the cars out during this qualifying session. Whilst the clock ticks down, what is critical is for the team to make sure that they can place their driver out on track where he's not going to be hindered potentially by traffic, which would always compromise a fast lap.
Yeah, and we saw that yesterday as well. It's not a massive track here, so finding space is critical. And with 18 cars on track, there isn't a great deal of space. And just having a car within the eye line can be a distraction,
of course.
Can't it?
Yes,
so finding that space is critical.
We've said this time and time again, you know what, if you come up against a driver, and all these drivers are supremely professional, you know, they're not going to deliberately bulk someone, they're going to get out of your way. But even by getting out of the way, that means you're going to potentially take a different line, and it is going to compromise your lap, perhaps only by 100th or 1,000th, but even so, it does compromise. So there you can see the eyes of Paul Di Resta awaiting the OK for him to go out on track. One of the 4 drivers, of course, for our Motorsport and Aston Martin. Paul Di Resta, also Danny Juncadella, Ferdinand Habsburg, and of course the talented Jake Dennis as well, who's bitterly disappointed, who managed to finish the race yesterday, but he'll be hoping for better things today. He took a brace of pair 11s or 2 P11s in the opening round at Hockenheim. Great to see Jake Dennis in a DTM car. So here is Rennie Rast then, who has been bested thus far by Sheldon van der Linde, but we still have just under 7 minutes of this qualifying session to do. So Rast will be on a hot lap now. He's done his installation. Of course, Philipp Eng yesterday in taking his victory, dedicated that victory to Charlie Lamb, who sadly we lost. So Charlie Lamb, the race victory of Philipp Eng, dedicating that win, and I think it would have been his birthday today, Charlie Lamb, and I hope I've got it wrong, but I think he would have been 64 years of age, so very, very sad loss, Charlie Lamb, and Philipp Eng dedicating that race win yesterday to him. He had such a guiding influence on Philipp Eng's supreme career. So van der Linde then, 121.590. Rennie Rast, 121.596, as Philipp Eng, who is 3rd fastest at this point in qualifying, goes into the second part, if you like, of the qualifying session when the drivers go out for their second runs, and one would hope it will be their best runs. But if Rennie Rast has anything to go by at the moment, you can see that the sector times thus far through Sector 1 and Sector 2, we have white bars. What does that mean? It means that it's not troubled either the personal best or best of anyone at times at the moment. So maybe another installation lap for Rennie Rast before he really goes for it now when it comes to this lap. He's heading towards the timing line now. Let's keep the clock on Rennie Rast then, as we expect this lap to be the one that potentially will count. What has he got to do? He's got to find some 6 1,000ths. And can he do that? Well, of course he can. Arno Zensen then, the team principal for Audi Sport Team Rosberg, looks on. Of course, he has all the data available to him. He can see who's doing what in which sector, indeed even in which corner, and where time is being lost or where time is being gained. So, keep your eyes on the coloured bars at the bottom of the graphics then. Sector 1 was not outstanding for Rene. You can get away with one sector potentially not being where you would like it to be, but you need to make it up in Sector 2 and Sector 3. Basically, you make it hard for yourself because the next 2 sectors have got to be utterly outstanding. So Rast taking as much of the curb as he dares, as Brian has indicated earlier on. Some of the curbs are very high here, and therefore can do damage to the sidewall of the Hankook tyres, which is clearly not a good thing. And you can see he is nearly 5/100ths down on where he needs to be. We are talking about a tiny amount of time, but you know, you have to not only tick every box in DTM cars, you have to tick every box with a bold print. You know, it's so difficult just to find the. And you can see Rennie has bailed out of that and come back into the pit lane.
It is an interesting.
Oh, now that could be crucial. That is the Paul di Resta car out. I say that could be crucial because we've only got 4 minutes of this session remaining. Dr. Florian Kamelger, then the team principal of our motorsport, looks on.
You were running, but had no, obviously no power.
Oh, so Paul di Resta with no power. The engine was running, no power is what he said.
Sounds like a transmission issue, doesn't it?
Mike Rockenfeller absolutely flying, and as you can see, he's done a personal best through Sector 2. Sector 1 wasn't brilliant. Mike Rockenfeller out of this lap, and the session has been red flagged. So now, with 3.5 minutes left, one has to look at the argument as to whether the session will recommence, because with just 3.5 minutes left, you're going to get 1, maybe 2 installation laps before you get 1
Going to go
hot
P0.
lap.
Just about conceivable to do that, isn't it?
It is going to restart 10:47.
Yeah. And there's going to be a queue of drivers at the pit lane here, isn't it? Because you're going to have a very short amount of time to get tyres and brakes up to temperature, and you're going to get 1 crack of the whip.
That's all. And being at the head of the queue in the pit lane is going to be absolutely critical. So Paul di Resta is out of his car. That is going to have to be recovered. So our motorsport with a lot of work to do. It's going to be P last for Paul di Resta, regrettably. And that means he will have work to do during the course of the race. That is assuming that our motorsport are able to find whatever the fault is. Now that to me looks like Rene Rast is not going to take the restart. He's happy with what he's done. He feels that he cannot better a 1:21.596.
And if tyres are at a premium, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it does.
Interesting to see when we had the influx of cars coming back on track, nobody was putting in, well, with the exception of, I think it was Rockefeller.
Yeah, it was.
No one else was putting in greens or indeed purples.
So there was no purples.
There were no improvements at all, which is what we saw yesterday, which goes against what you'd expect. So it might be that Rene Rast feels as though he's extracted as much as he can and he wants to save the car and the tyres for the race.
It might also be that he was in the pit lane at that point and therefore would not be released out of the pit lane again because of the shortness of the session remaining.
Right.
So it may not all be a conscious decision. Just throwing another curved ball in there.
Yeah.
As if our life was not complicated enough, because DTM drives so much drama, it's absolutely extraordinary. Loic Duval, another one of those that's come into the pit lane as well. So, with 3.5 minutes left and the session resuming at 47, there you can see Ferdinand Habsburg and Jake Dennis are exactly where they need to be. And that is right at the start of the pit lane, and they're going to be joined by young Mr. Sheldon van der Linde as well. So, of course, it was a conscious decision from Rene Rast, because all the cars in the pit lane are going to be released, but released at 10:47, and Rene, therefore, well, presumably in communication with the team, have decided, do you know what? Let's preserve the tyres. We feel that we've delivered the best that we can, given the rubber that we had available. The rubber in the race is going to be more important.
Yeah.
That's the way to enjoy DTM, isn't it? The glass of lemonade.
Couldn't think of a better way of doing it.
On a lovely afternoon such as this.
And it is a lovely afternoon,
It is.
isn't it?
It's a
morning.
Better blooming day than we expected.
It
Yes.
really is. I brought my raincoat with me.
Better than yesterday. Absolutely amazing. So their confirmation then, the restart at 10:47 local time, and local boy Robin Freins in car number 4 then, who yesterday gave us a sample of how good he and Rene are at becoming chocolatiers. This time, Jonathan Aberdeen makes sure there's enough steering lock on the car to be able to get out of the garage. And there you can see Marco Wittmann lined up, so too is Jamie Green and Pietro Fittipaldi as well. Some lovely shots here. That is Jake Dennis, whose razor is broken at the moment, as you could tell. Don't thank me for saying that. Robin Freins clearly goes to the same chemist. It is really going to be 3 laps and 3 laps only, isn't it, with the amount of time that we've got left? That is assuming the clock doesn't change and they don't extend it. So René Rast then decided enough is enough, and he's with Verena now.
Enough is enough. That's what René Rast said. You're in P2 at the moment. You would theoretically have 3.5 more minutes to go. How come you didn't go out again, or how come you're not going out again?
Basically, we saw yesterday that the track didn't get any quicker with the second tire set. On today it was the same. I tried with the second set, but I couldn't improve my time, and it felt like I couldn't go any quicker. And then there's no point for us to go back to the pits and try again. Anyway, so hopefully nobody is going to improve, but we never know. Obviously, for now it's a good position. P2 is good, but let's see if it stays like that.
If it stays like that, it's good. All right, thank you so much, René. Back to you.
Thanks, Verena. Exactly as we predicted then, René felt that based on yesterday's performance, you couldn't better in the second part of qualifying, and therefore he felt there was little gain from taking part in that, and therefore banked the lap time that he had achieved and banked the rubber that remained on the Hankooks on his car. Sheldon van der Linde, clearly, although he's done a 1:21.5, is not absolutely convinced that it cannot be bettered, and therefore he's going out for another run. In his first year in DTM is Sheldon van der Linde, and as you can see, he's P3 in the queue of cars to get out of the pit lane as the clock ticks to 10:47 and the cars are released. Mike Rockenfeller, another one of those drivers that's banked the car, and Mike Rockenfeller achieved a P6 time, which is better than he, of course, taking a grid drop yesterday by virtue of the fact the car was being worked on in Parc Fermé conditions. He started right from the back of the pack, so a third row start as it stands for Mike Rockenfeller. Very good news indeed. Joel Eriksson, Bruno Spengler, they're both having another go, and Bruno Spengler's really sluggish out of the pit lane, that's for sure. That means that Timo Glock is having to wait as well. So that is not the pit lane speed limit, I can assure you of that.
You see Timo's frustration there, the hands in the air, couldn't you?
Timo is one of those fantastic characters in DTM who you always know where you stand with DTM and exactly where he's feeling within DTM. Timo Glock's emotions are always very public, and we love him for it, to be honest. He's taken 5 victories in his DTM career, and hard fought they have been as well. But as he's said publicly on many occasions, as far as he is concerned, in DTM he is having the racing of his life. And that coming from a former Formula One star, that just proves, Brian, how competitive and how exciting it is for DTM.
It is DTM. It's one of the most competitive series in the world, and it's increasing in popularity, and it's good to see a decent crowd here again today to witness this. It's so good, and it's DTM spreading its wings into Belgium and around Europe. Really good to see. And
further afield as well, of course, and we have such an eclectic international mix of drivers that compete. We have a South African who is fastest at the moment, and that's the car you see on screen right now, that of Sheldon van der Linde. A 1:21.590 from Sheldon van der Linde, who's got, he's got this lap that he's on now and potentially one more, because I think he would just cross the timing line before the clock went down, or goes down to 0. So let's see if he improves then in Sector 1 then. Philipp Eng is also on a hot one as well. We run the clock on him. And so too, the 2-time DTM champion, Marco Wittmann. So van der Linde does not improve through Sector 1. Does Philipp Eng improve through Sector 1? He's currently third fastest. Marco Wittmann does a PB through Sector 1, and Philipp Eng does not improve. So I think that really is playing into what René Rast was saying, Brian, in that in the second half of the quali session, the track does not necessarily provide the asphalt for better lap times.
That's very interesting. That normally you'd expect the track to get faster, but we certainly noticed it yesterday, and René Rast had very rightly decided it's better to save the car, as we see Marco Wittmann putting in personal bests further down in P8. But he's decided to save the tyres and save the car, and that seems wise when you look at what's happening here. I was interested to see if Philip Eng could do something about Sheldon van der Linde's P1 position, but he's not going to do that this afternoon.
No, Marco Wittmann is, as you rightly say, he's done 2 personal bests through Sector 1 and Sector 2, but he does improve 1 place. But as you can see, lost a bit of time in the 3rd sector and is still 5/10ths down on the best time from Sheldon van der Linde, which that 1:21.590 remains as the best time. Timo Glock, his middle sector was not so good. Philip Eng crosses the timing line shortly, and we'll see whether Philip Eng improves still further. There is Timo Glock then heading towards breaking the timing beam now. He will not get another lap, and he does P5 at 1:21.803 for Timo Glock. On board with Philip Eng then. Pietro Fittipaldi has done personal best through Sector 1, so too has Danny Unkadea. We're on board with Marco Wittmann, beg your pardon. Marco's bailed out of that lap, I think. So too has Danny Unkadea, that's for sure.
I don't think we're going to see anybody
I don't think we
making
are.
any improvements here. Pietro Fittipaldi has put in a good Sector 1, but in the middle sector he's a little bit average. So I think it's pretty well much as you were in terms of grid positions.
I think you're absolutely right. And, well, this, in his maiden DTM year, is an extraordinary achievement for Sheldon van der Linde.
He's got to be happy with that, hasn't he? That's excellent driving, despite a little bit of rallycross as well.
Yes, he on his fastest lap, he was carrying so much speed that ended up in the gravel and grass, but matters not. He delivered when he needed to, and René Rast, you know, will be one of those. And of course, René Rast, for certainly a season, was teammates with his brother Kelvin. So there's great affection between the families, and René there congratulating exactly as we expected Sheldon van der Linde. Well done, sir.
See how happy he is with that, can't you? And if it's not this afternoon, it won't be long before we see Sheldon van der Linde on the top step of the podium, and it might well be this afternoon.
Of course, I think I'm right in saying his brother took a race victory yesterday. Kelvin was winner yesterday, I believe. So
yes, he was. Yeah.
Whenever you see the name van der Linde, and I was introduced to the name in Junior Tin Top Racing, and there's no question about it, there is some immense talent there. So Philip Eng, of course, probably buoyed by the confidence he found yesterday, having taken his victory, is going to be going from P3, so he's probably in a good place as well. Let's take nothing away from this young man who, in only his 3rd DTM race, when you consider the sheer talent that is littered through the grid, it's an extraordinary achievement for him to take P1.
You can see how happy he is, can't you? Nice to see somebody so ecstatic about getting that P1.
To put it into context of how close DTM is, it was 6/1000ths faster than René Rast, but whether it's 6/1000ths or 6/10ths, he's done it. So Mum, Dad and Bro are going to be very happy about that. Congratulated there by Guido Stallman, who passes on some water, which I should think, well, I'll be happy to take that on board. There is Philip Eng. Good for BMW, isn't it? P1 and P3 on the grid. So René Rast putting himself between the two of them for Audi. So yeah, what a lovely shot that is, the backdrop of this Zolder circuit. You can see the pit exit there. And here, confirmation of who did what in qualifying for race 4. Sheldon van der Linde, P1. René Rast, Philip Eng, P2 and 3. Then it was Robin Freins, Timo Glock, Mike Rockefeller, Marco Wittmann, Jonathan Aberdeen, Jamie Green, Joel Eriksson. Good quali from Jonathan Aberdeen, you know, P8. Loic Duval, Nico Muller. Then it was Jake Dennis, Pietro Fittipaldi. Then it was Bruno Spengler, Danny Unkadea, Ferdinand Habsburg, and of course Paul de Resta. Regrettably, we saw out of that qualifying session. So the top 3 pose for their photographs. and the two BMW drivers that are P1 and P3 together there and there. The congratulations being offered by René Rast. Going back to when Rast and Sheldon's brother Kelvin were racing together, I remember saying right at the top of that particular season, that could be a fantastic combination, and it proved to be. Sheldon van der Linde, well done, sir. P1 in only your third race.
How amazing is that, Sheldon? You're the youngest guy in the field. It's only your fourth race coming up and already your pole setter now. So tell me exactly what's going through your head right now.
Honestly, I still can't believe it. I'm sure when we stand on the grid later in P1, it'll feel more realistic. But yeah, like you said, fourth race in DTM, already pole position, super happy. Thanks so much to my team. Congrats to Philip as well. It's great to have the team up there in the top 3. Home race for the team as well. Yeah, nothing more to say. Super happy.
All right, well, enjoy, and we're looking forward to the race. Best of luck for that, and back to you.
Thanks very much. Yes. He has only completed 3 races, and going into his 4th race, he has banked a pole position. Sheldon van der Linde, P1. René Rast, P2. Philip Eng, P3, with Robin Freins, danger man there from P4, potentially, ahead of Timo Glock and Mike Rockenfeller, Marco Wittmann, Jonathan Aberdeen, Jamie Green, and Joel Eriksson. And here comes the grid for race 4 that comes from Zolder. Sheldon van der Linde, P1, René Rast alongside. Then we find Philip Eng, race winner in yesterday's race. Alongside him is Robin Freins, the local driver, going from P4, ahead of Timo Glock and Mike Rockenfeller, who are on row 3 of the grid, to row 4, where we find Marco Wittmann. And credit to Jonathan Aberdeen, good quality time from Jonathan Aberdeen, ahead of Jamie Green and Joel Eriksson, P9 and P10. To the second half of the grid, where we find Loic Duval and Nico Muller on the 6th row, going P11 and P12. Then it's Jake Dennis, P13, Pietro Fittipaldi goes from P14. Bruno Spengler and Danny Junkadea, P15 and P16. Ahead of Ferdinand Habsburg and Paul de Resta, locking out the rear row of the grid. And unfortunately, that is the Paul de Resta car being towed back to the paddock. So regrettably, Paul de Resta not able to better his time. We're looking forward to the race this afternoon. Please make sure you join us for that. It is going to be awesome. Bye-bye for now.
What is super surprising qualifying. Wow, he just turned 20, and Sheldon van der Linde is pole setter. So it's going to be a really exciting race, a race you certainly do not want to miss here in Zolder. So make sure to tune in. And for now, here are the highlights of the qualifying. Enjoy, and see you in just a bit for the race. Bye-bye for now.